Hello and welcome to the Catch a Lift Coaches Corner. I'm Cal lead coach Melissa Luke, and this week I am honored to welcome retired U.S. Navy veteran Todd Sullivan to today's show. Todd is an avid Cal supporter and CrossFit coach who has opened a gym in Tennessee. Welcome to this week's episode of Coaches Corner. Todd,
Thanks,
welcome.
Melissa.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
How are you doing today?
Awesome. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you. So much stuff I'm so excited to talk to you about today. Why don't we start by talking about your 30-year career in the Navy? What drove you to join the Navy?
So I'll be honest and open kimono. I was a high school soccer player and not bad. Had some scholarship offers until colleges saw my high school transcripts. I forgot to go a lot, and my high school transcripts didn't represent me real well. And so after a couple of years, I decided, okay, it's time to get serious and tackle life. And I'll join the Navy for 4 years, and only 4 years to get the GI Bill, and ended up spending a couple more.
So you didn't intend to serve out a 30-year career in the Navy?
I didn't. I knew what I wanted to do, college-wise, kind of had some career ideas in mind, and was really, going to go into marketing and was going to, go off. Came from a town that was a large manufacturing town, so I thought plenty of marketing opportunity. And then things changed.
Oh, they often do in life, right? So
Absolutely.
why don't you tell us about that, Todd? So how did you go from thinking, this is a 4-year gig in the Navy to serving 30 years? Tell us about your Navy career.
Yeah, so I enlisted E1. Thought I, was looking at SEALs, but of course in 1988 we didn't have our friend Google to tell us all of the truth, and a lot of veterans are going to listen to this next line of disbelief. My recruiter lied to me.
I can't believe that. They don't do that.
Absolutely. I got through boot camp into my A school and went to take the physical screening test. And they said, well, you're colorblind. And I said, yeah, that's why I'm a storekeeper. And they said, well, you can't be a SEAL. And I said, no, my recruiter, actually, I said, no, that's why I'm a storekeeper, because it's a source rate. And they said, let me guess, your recruiter said. And so I, 2 days later, had a chief petty officer come to our class and pitch submarines. And he said, the food's better, you get extra pay in a barracks room. And I raised my hand and volunteered for subs. Loved, my first tour, although shortly into it, got in trouble, went to captain's mast, and was, so started out kind of not where I wanted to be. And at that point, I decided that was not going to be my legacy in the Navy, that I was better than that young sailor, and excelled for the rest of that tour. Back in 1991, I was the first E5 to qualify and stand chief of the watch and duty chief. So I really wanted to turn it around. And I did by the end of that tour, and decided, I didn't get but 2 college classes in on this first tour. Let's go to shore duty and see, we'll just do 1 shore tour so I can get all that college in. And that led to another advancement or 2, and more opportunities to stay in. And I just realized through that first tour, but really in that second tour, where I had just some really phenomenal bosses, that I was good at this, that I enjoyed doing this, and that I enjoyed serving. And that's where I really realized that what we do is about so much more than ourselves.
Right.
And started really honing that leadership and that servant leadership by the people I work for and wanted to emulate.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. So I've got to ask you, what's it like living on a sub? I mean, what's that look like?
So it was interesting, so when I got to my first boat, it was a fast attack. So one of the smaller subs, it was the Los Angeles class. It's decommissioned now. It was the USS Groton, stationed in Groton, Connecticut. So and it was in, I reported on board there in '88. First started going to sea, and it was the Cold War. So when you went out to sea, your mission could change easily, and it often did. And so we spent, upwards of 90 days submerged at one point.
Oh, wow.
Had to have food ribbed to us from a cargo ship. But it was just a big brotherhood. I mean, back then it was a brotherhood because it was only males serving on subs.
Okay.
But I really enjoyed the camaraderie and the support, and you knew that unlike other naval vessels, if something goes bad, there's no jumping overboard. You have to fight that submarine, and so you knew that you had to depend on those people around you, and so you really built strong bonds.
Oh, I can't even imagine. Right. I mean, that's incredible. So were you in subs the entire time, Todd, or what kind of happened from there?
So I was first tour submarine, second tour was a submarine squadron. So I went out to sea fairly routinely for 3 to 5 days, helping other subs. Went back to a submarine as the LPO. So the head of my division, made chief petty officer on board there. Was really fortunate to be in a great chief's quarters with. There's two guys that I tell people all the time. It was like leadership 101. Just have a notebook and sit back and watch. And two of the very best leaders I've ever served with were on board there. And then I ended up picking up a commission, selected for the limited duty officer program in the Navy. So career specialty, I was in logistics, so I became a supply officer. And so my first 11 years were all submarines or submarine support. Then I commissioned and decided to head off to I wanted my job to be the mission of the ship. And so I went to a cargo ship. So after officer, or after supply officer school, headed off to my first surface ship tour. So,
Wow.
and then from there, so it wasn't all subs. From there, it was an aviation job, another submarine group, a quick tour in Iraq, and then a tour in Afghanistan, and then I finished it up in recruiting.
Okay. What would you what were some of the the biggest takeaways that you took from the Navy, either personally or that you've been able to take forward, with the different leadership things you do in your life?
I think one of the biggest things is if you realize that everything that you do is bigger than you, it's so much easier to put it in contrast. And kind of like that statement on humility. Humility is not thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself less. And I think that's easy to do when you understand the big picture of serving in an organization so big as the Navy. Right. I tell people all the time, one day you might be the commanding officer, and then the next day you're just another retiree in line at the pharmacy. And if you look at it that way, it makes it easy to realize that if I do my job well, my legacy is what I've given and trained others to do, and I've built my relief, and so that's going to go on. But it's too big of an organization to worry about you as an individual once we move on. And I think that's a great outlook for life. Is let's not focus on ourselves, but let's focus on the contribution we can make while we're there, but how it can last by building others.
Oh, absolutely. I love that. Thank you for sharing that with us. So what was it like for you, Todd, transitioning out of the Navy after 30 years of service?
I felt like I prepped myself okay. I went out to coffee and boating with an old boss of mine when I thought I was going to retire in 2012. And I started using civilian vernacular on things like hey, let's meet at 8 a.m. by 0800. Drove my command masterpiece nuts, I'm sure. But spending my last two tours in the Navy and recruiting, I was dealing with the public a
Right.
lot. And while I was here in the Nashville area, I was going to a monthly book club, was just some fantastic business leaders from my area. And when I first went, I was like, kind of looking around because they're all in suits and ties, and I'm in, khakis, wearing some ribbons and stuff.
Yep.
And I was thinking, man, I'm getting such a good taste of the business outlook. And then I found out they were saying, man, we're getting this great taste of military discipline and a military outlook and a not-for-profit point of view. And I realized that our differences, our diversity of thought are so important. But I think being a part of that group and being in recruiting where I was dealing with the public just truly helped that transition be a lot easier.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. So, fitness is obviously a big part of your life now, Todd. Were you an active individual prior to joining the Navy?
I was. I played soccer from the time I was 5 all the way until I joined competitively. I ran my first marathon when I was 19 years old. I raced road bikes, cross country skied. I may have to shut the door. It sounds like somebody's mowing. So let me do that real fast.
Okay.
I apologize.
No worries.
Not sure how I picked the only day to come to the gym where I was going to mow.
We have the beautiful flag behind you now.
Yeah, and I love it because when it goes up, it hangs, and so it's a great reminder of how blessed we are when we're here in the gym.
Oh, absolutely.
But I coached athletics, and I just really always tried to stay fit. So, I was that guy that back in the 80s, it was okay. I was that guy out wearing tights in the winter running and, hitting the trails even in the snow. So it's always been important to me.
So your fitness it's evolved a lot through the years, and you've been involved in a lot of different, sports and athletic endeavors. How did you first hear about CrossFit, or when did you first see it?
It was kind of funny. I mean, I'd kind of heard about it. And then in 2008, I was in Iraq, and there was some version of it going on that base. And, I thought I was still going to be a runner, but running at 5 a.m. in 110-degree heat got old.
Yeah.
And so a couple of my buddies that I worked with, we started lifting twice a day, 6 days a week. And that was my first, since before I joined the Navy, that was really my first time back in the weight room hitting free weights. I was just a body weight guy and a runner. And when I came home, there was a new CrossFit gym in Kings Bay where we lived, and just didn't really interest me, but I was still running, and my wife was going to fitness classes on base. And I went to Afghanistan, and I made fun of the CrossFitters on base, doing their weird stuff. And then my wife started CrossFit, and I thought, well, I can't let her be tougher than me.
Yeah.
So I've got to start too.
What was it, more specifically about CrossFit, though, that kind of, once you started, that really had you hooked?
I think a couple of things. It made fitness fun again. I enjoyed running, but I was a solo runner. I enjoyed that almost team spirit. That first CrossFit gym I went to, you just really had that. I love the competitiveness of it, where while the last person finished with the workout may have the most cheerleaders, it was fun to pick somebody in class and say, okay, I'm keeping up with them today. And so that just really, and I had two great coaches at the gym that helped me not hurt myself, because
Yeah.
I was almost 46 years old. I had never done a power clean in my life, and I had never done a snatch in my life. I had back squatted and bench press, and that was about it with a barbell.
Okay.
And I quickly realized, okay, it's hard, but I like it. Um, and I quickly realized that the body weight stuff was still going to be my best friend. So the pull-up rig, once I got the hang of it, became my best friend, and the toes to bar and all those things were really kind of my jam in there. And I had the ability with that running background to work for a long time. And so
Right.
uh, that was kind of my evening out effect with the people who had been doing it and moved better. I had great stamina and endurance.
Yeah, that makes sense. At what point, Todd, did you decide then that you wanted to start coaching CrossFit?
So I went into CrossFit with a mindset that I was going to CrossFit 2 days a week and just continue running 5 days a week. Um, to by the fall, I was CrossFitting 4 days a week, running 2 or 3 days a week. To at the 6 month point, I went to my level one.
Okay.
And I went primarily just for the knowledge, just to make me smarter about the
Right.
sport and about why we do things. But those two great coaches said, "Hey, we think that you'll be a great coach. We want you to start, coaching with us." And really spent time and invested in me as a coach. And so I was able to start coaching right away with them.
Oh
So
my
I'd go
gosh,
down
that's
and coach the
awesome.
6 a.m. class with them, and then work out at 7 a.m. and then go to work. So it was a perfect fit that they wanted to use my newly acquired education and learning and skills.
Oh, I'm sure. That's so great. And I think, that you would attest to this, and I've seen it in my own life. I mean, what a good coach can do for you like that, and that's certainly a blessing. How have you been
Yeah.
able to kind of, use, you were in command, different leadership positions in the Navy. I'm assuming, have you been able to, bring that into your coaching, or, have the things that you learned, have they kind of transitioned to CrossFit coaching for you?
They absolutely have. I think coaching. So the way I look at CrossFit now is my best days in the gym are getting other people to their best days in the gym. Um, in command, my best days were the days where I built my team and was able to give more and more authority and responsibility away. And so everybody that walks through the door is a person first. Um, and then, you know, many facets before they are what they do for a living. And I really believe that everybody that comes to the door and is a member of our gym is an athlete. And if we can impress upon them that they are an athlete and they work towards that, I truly am an athlete role, then they bring on that aspect of I want to be better. And that's really my life mission, is helping make people better. And so I believe that we do that by ensuring that people know that they're capable of being better, and um, and putting forth their very best effort. And their best effort today is going to be different than tomorrow and different from yesterday, and that's okay. We're not measured by the score on the whiteboard today. We're measured by the level of effort that we put forth. And I think that's a key thing for people to understand.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I remember the first time, that we met and talked with you. You said that was your mission, is, to make people better, but kind of that open-ended better. Can you talk about that just a little bit more, Todd? Like how that does look different in other people's lives, and just how we can be better.
Absolutely. So, obviously, as a CrossFit coach, I want to help make people better athletes. Um, I lead a men's ministry at my church. So I want to help make those men better husbands, better fathers, better followers of Christ. Um, I'm launching a professional leadership executive coaching business, and I'm doing that to make business leaders, church leaders, nonprofit leaders, better at caring and developing their teams, better at taking care of the people that they're responsible for. And so to me, better is open-ended, but it's the same approach and the same outlook. And so it doesn't matter if I'm coaching here in the gym, or I'm mentoring someone at the coffee shop, or I'm leading, my men's group through church. The end result is if I can develop a relationship and I can listen to learn, listen to respond, and I can understand the person and what their goals are, then I really believe that I have an opportunity to help make them better.
That's so cool. That's so cool. I took so much out of that, especially from the first time, we talked about it, and there's something for everyone, to grab out of that message. Thank you, Todd.
Thanks.
I want to kind of piggyback off that just a little bit. So, in Catch a Lift, we have a coaching and mentoring program, and so we have a lot of, when I say young coaches, I mean, young into coaching and mentoring. What advice would you give, to people who are listening that are coaches or mentors, just kind of starting out in that realm?
Spend time up front understanding the person that you're working with. Learn how to ask questions to get to the why behind the why. So, if a person's saying, well, I want to get faster, well, that's great. And a good coach can help them get faster, but why do they want to get faster? Because the why may tell you that they're telling you that they want to get faster, but what it really is something completely different. And faster to them might mean something slightly different to them than it does to you. And I believe that the onus of good communication is on the coach. So as a coach, what I'm hearing, I have to make sure I'm understanding. And what I'm putting out, I have to make sure that my coachee is understanding. And if I can do that in a clear and concise way, so much easier to build that relationship and to really build towards the right goals, not just the goals that somebody says they have.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Have you seen, so you've been a CrossFit coach, roughly 7 years or so now. Has your approach to it changed, over these past 7 years with what you do with athletes or how you approach the whole process?
It has. Originally my goal was to get somebody into the class doing exactly what the class was right now. And so let's just do some things and let's get you going. And what I've realized is that what I really need to do is I need to help you move right and then move well and then move up. And so that may mean while the class is doing power cleans at 95 pounds, that new guy who moved like me, when I started this, is doing hang cleans with a technique bar which weighs 15 pounds, or a technique bar with 15 pounds if their ego really won't let them go that low, which I understand sometimes because I was that guy. But if I can help them move right and then do that well, then sooner than later I can have them in the class doing the exact same things as the class, by doing a slightly different version. And I'm doing it without risking them getting injured. And I think that's the key. That's probably my biggest difference is I've matured in my approach, and I've matured in my approach because I've gotten injured by trying to move up too fast and letting techniques slide. And I can talk to them about that. And I can talk to them about, why my way is what I believe a better way. And that's why here at our gym, we have like a boot camp version of every workout. And so if a person's brand new, we may do the strength and we may work with them on lifts during the strength portion. But in the workout, they might not be ready to do those power cleans with the barbell, but they might be ready to do them with dumbbells.
Right.
And so we can modify that movement, still give them the exact same thing, still have them right in the mix with the class, high-fiving at the end because they're working just as hard as everybody else, but not risking injury.
Right. Yeah. So CrossFit's obviously, well, it's big for everybody, but it's very big in our veteran community too. For anyone curious, about CrossFit or, wanting to get involved in the sport, how do you recommend they kind of get started with it? Especially right now, maybe if going to a physical box isn't even an option.
Yeah, so I think, I do some remote programming, for instance. And I think if you find the right coach that takes the time to do some video assessment and show you movement and have you send videos back, that's one way. I know a lot of CrossFit gyms across the country are doing parking lot workouts. Let's face it, you can YouTube every movement, and I believe that everybody listening or watching has the ability to find something in their garage to start learning the movement with, whether it's a broom handle or a shovel or you name it, or a milk jug for kettlebells. I got creative on my own gym page during COVID to put out some workouts every day for people who had no equipment. But I think what people are going to benefit the most from going to CrossFit is that sense of community. And so if you can get into a gym that's having classes still, talk to those coaches and talk to them before your first class. I think that's one of my biggest things for people is go talk to them before you show up to work out, and so that you can have a good dialogue of where you're at and they can understand where you're at and help you assimilate into the class much better than, okay, first day, it's time to do our warm up. So you stand right next to me and do this as best as you can while I'm trying to warm up 10 other people.
Right.
And I think that one won't sour a person on their first day, and also will put that coach in the best position available to help them.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. And I want to ask you too, Todd, I know nutrition is a huge piece, right, to our lives in general, but also, for fitness and for athletes. Can you talk to us a little bit about kind of your nutrition views and how you approach nutrition with athletes of yours?
Absolutely. I tell them there's no magic nutrition plan out there. We're all different. We all have different goals. I aspire to sustainable living. So I believe that I don't want to put people on a diet. I want to put them on a live it. I want them to be able to live it as a lifestyle. And I also believe that if we try something that is so strict and regimented that it eliminates every joy in eating, that we will crash and burn.
Yeah.
And I've done a nutrition certification, and I study it a lot, and I read about it a lot. I just finished a book, and I kind of go to steer people at least to start with look at a Mediterranean style eating plan. Where you're eating good, fresh fruits and vegetables, whole grains, not a lot of processed, some meats, not a 12-ounce, steak with every meal. Stay away from the processed meats, which, people who think that they're paleo or are eating a pound of bacon a day have to realize that cavemen didn't cure bacon. And good fats, olive oil and avocado oil and avocados and those kind of things, good oils. And there's a lot of really good food that you can eat if you approach it that way. And then if you make that shift to eating in that style, and then you have some more goals that you want to narrow in, it's a whole lot easier because you've changed your foundation. And I look at fitness and nutrition and life is kind of a pyramid, and nutrition is just that huge foundation at the bottom.
Yeah.
And you can't out-train a bad diet. We hear that all the time, but I see it all the time too.
Oh,
I mean, I see
absolutely.
people who
Absolutely.
work out really hard 5 days a week and then drink to excess and eat a half gallon of ice cream over the weekend and don't understand why they're not losing weight.
Yeah.
You know, pushbacks might be the most important thing for some of them.
Yeah. So Todd, you recently opened a gym in Tennessee, Fortress Fitness. What drove you to move in that direction with your life and open up a gym?
So I love the aspect of the community around CrossFit. And I have a couple of partners, and we're all Christian. And it's important to us that we developed a community of people who want to be better, who want to be fit, and who want to be in the lives of other people who want those same things. And Fortress, you know, I played around with Webster's dictionary of the word. You know, in Webster's dictionary, the word fortress is a military stronghold. So the Sullivan version, which is now Fortress Fitness version of the definition of stronghold is, or a fortress is a stronghold, my body, this I will build and defend. And I want to help create a space where people want to come, they want to get fit, they want to share life, and they want to be around like-minded people. Even if they're not here working out, they want to hang out.
Yeah.
And so we've started out really small. We're limiting class sizes because we're so small, but we have some huge vision for this gym. I mean, we're sitting on this great piece of land, and we really want to have some OCR, some obstacle course, you know, training, and throw in maybe a volleyball court for just pure fun, and add yoga and you know, professional stretching type things to our routine, but all the things that make us better people, help us move better. And we want to do that with just really good people.
That's so cool. It sounds like you guys are creating an incredible community down there. That's just fantastic. Congratulations on opening the gym.
Thanks. And people thought we were crazy doing it during COVID, but honestly, this far into COVID, I feel like people need this.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's
So we do mop a lot.
yeah. It's funny though, because I've had the pleasure of talking with 3 different people now who have opened gyms like during this quarantine or this COVID time. You know, all of them veterans. So I think it speaks a lot to our community and our ability as veterans to adapt, you know, change fire to a different direction and still get that job done. So it's outstanding.
Yeah.
So I want to talk to you, Todd, about, you know, your faith in Jesus Christ and, you know, the ministry work that you do. You know, how has, you know, your faith guided you through your life and your fitness?
You know, so I believe in being a good steward of all that God gives me, you know, and so, and I believe that I should give 3 things: my time, my talent, my treasures. And I believe that if I was given this body, that I should take as good of care of it as I can while I dwell in it. And so that's, you know, that's one of the overarching reasons I believe that staying fit is so important. Is God designed us in His image, and we should, you know, look at that as He is a great creator. So I should take care of this great creation. But I also think, you know, some of the best theological discussions I've had are around a barbell. And so that's been really big. And, you know, what I've realized is my leadership, you know, is founded in my faith. And, you know, when you look at leaders in the Bible, you know, all but one of them, you know, had flaws, but they had the right heart, the right spirit, and they realized that they were not in complete control. And I believe that if I look at it that way, and I aspire to be like that one that was without flaw, knowing I'll fall short every single day, but he cared for people way more than he cared for, anything else. And so I believe as a leader, one of my favorite lines, if I'm out talking to groups about leadership, is leadership without love is simply barking orders. And so if we don't love the people that we are leading, then we are not probably leading effectively or from the right spot.
That's incredible. Yeah, I couldn't agree with that more. What type of Christian ministry work are you involved in now, Todd?
So I lead some men's ministry at my church. So I go to a non-denominational church here in town, and I lead a group, and I lead all of our men's events. And really, I spend a lot of time with the church staff and just talking to them, because I feel like every person in professional ministry, they have it rough. People don't come to them and just share their joys in life and their victories.
Right.
They share their defeats and downfalls, and they need somebody to talk to as well. And I also believe that they need somebody to use as a sounding board, not just their boss, the head pastor. So I try to be that. I'm getting more involved. A good friend of mine started a ministry called Get Strong Ministries. He opened a CrossFit type gym in Nicaragua and does 1 week a month mission trips.
Very
In fact,
cool.
this Sunday, I'm starting in a Bible study that he's leading with some other Christian men and gym owners. So I'm really excited to be getting connected with these men. And we're calling it the Full Armor of God Bible study. So we're putting on the full armor and really being there for one another. And I foresee myself starting a mentoring group in my church soon, where I bring a group of younger men who are in a different stage of life than me into a group where we meet formally once a month, and we have a book that we read that kind of guides that month. And so there'll be some downward mentoring from me as the older guy that has some life experience, but there'll be a lot of peer-to-peer mentoring and relationship building, so that these men know that they have other Christian men that they can go to when times are tough. And
Absolutely.
my hope for that is that everybody that goes through it at some point wants to do that for others and to give back into building other men. I believe if we can get the men in our country and the husbands and the fathers really involved in ministry and church, it will make it so much easier for the whole family to get involved and go to church.
Absolutely. Like you said, though, it all starts in the home like that, and I agree. Like with that father figure, how have you seen? How have throughout your years, Todd? How have you seen Christian ministries, make an impact on others?
There's so many, in my opinion, just really good ministries. I think of Fellowship of Christian Athletes and what they're doing. I learned a lot more about them over the last couple of years, and how, they have role models and mentors going out and supporting coaches in the schools and supporting the teams, but really being there for that coach so that the coach can be a more godly figure to the team, whether it's a male or a female coach. I think of, the Campus Crusade, and in that time where young men and women are at that pivotal stage of deciding kind of where they're at in life and what's important, how that ministry can play a huge role. I was blessed. I led a couples Sunday school class 15 years ago or so, when we first moved to Virginia, and just looking back at that time, the impact that those couples had on me, and then thinking that I might have had that same kind of impact back to them. So there's just so many things that ministry can do and is doing, if we just realize, what's going on, and not being afraid to say, you know what, I'm going to go to that men's steak night, or I'm going to go to that woman's bonfire,
Right.
and I'm going to spend, just this one night, this one Saturday night with a bunch of women from, my community, in a wholesome, safe atmosphere, and just what that one visit can do and impact.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
I think that's the key. And again, it's all based on those relationships that we build.
What would you tell to others listening, Todd, who are struggling in their lives, in one way or another, and they're looking for something more? What would you tell them?
Do a personal inventory. So a long time ago, in the late '90s, if you asked me to introduce myself, I'd say, "Hi, I'm Todd Sullivan. I'm a chief petty officer on a submarine, and oh, by the way, I have a family." Today, if you ask me to do an introduction, I tell you I'm Todd. I'm a Christian. I'm a husband. I'm a father. I'm a pop. Recently, I'm a veteran and an athlete and a coach, and I list it in that order of in precedence. And if we do a good self-inventory, and even if you're not a real strong in your faith, but you do realize that you were created by God, and you realize that God doesn't make mistakes, and you're made in God's image. If you just ponder on that for a minute, the rest of those things, the order, the sequence that you list them in, becomes a whole lot easier to put in order. And once you say that out loud one time, it feels weird introducing yourself as a Christian, a husband, when everybody's kind of looking for that business card introduction.
Right.
After that first time, so easy.
Yeah.
You just got to get that first one out. And once I took that approach to life, everything fell into place much better. I became a better husband and a better father and better at my job because I didn't put my self-worth in those things. I put them in my faith, and then was able to actually be free to be better at everything else I was doing.
Oh, absolutely. That's wonderful. I love that. It's funny. Just a week or 2 weeks ago in church, we had a similar discussion, and how our priest put it to us was that you're married to this person you love, and oftentimes when you introduce your spouse, you're like, this is my husband David, but to change that to this is my husband David whom I love, and just interjecting that in there too, and just like you're saying, doing a self inventory, and how you're kind of approaching some of these things. That it definitely it changes your mindset and how you behave towards your partner, your family, and such. And that's awesome.
So Melissa, that reminds me. So my wife and I are always doing Bible studies together, and one that we were doing not too long ago said, instead of just looking at your spouse as your spouse who you love, look at your spouse as a son of God or a daughter of God. How does that change how you view and relate to your spouse and treat your spouse? And then extrapolate that over your child is also a child of God. And that person who you're angry with, who cut you off on the freeway, guess what?
Yeah.
So are they.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting way of looking at things.
It is.
That I had not considered. I was like, ooh, so right.
Yeah, definitely a lot more there to ponder and definitely meditate on. So I want to kind of finish up today, Todd, and I want to ask you about Catch a Lift. When did you first learn or hear about Catch a Lift?
So it was about 3 years ago, and I'd done some nonprofit work with another veteran serving nonprofit, and I was actually looking some things up for them, and I came across Catch a Lift, and instantly was interested, and instantly connected with Lynn, and so had a phone call with her. We exchanged some emails, And I just said, I'm leaving activity, but what can I do to help? And we've stayed in contact. I have shared the Catch a Lift story. I've done fundraisers for Catch a Lift. I've done, tried to do some business development, helping her find some organizations to work alongside. One of my CrossFit sponsors, a supplement company, I talked to them. I said, you've only been sponsoring me for a few months. And so now here's my ask. One, I want you to do a red shirt. So remember everyone deployed. But not only do I want you to do that shirt, but I want you to donate all the proceeds to this veteran serving nonprofit. So, I was a little bit forward and they said, deal.
That's
Sign us
awesome.
up. And so every red shirt that they sell on their website, goes to Catch a Lift. So pretty excited about that.
That's terrific. What does it mean to you to be an avid Cal supporter, Todd?
It means that I am making sure that the story gets told of the great Americans who have made a huge sacrifice to our nation, to our way of life, who have said, I want the bad things in life to happen during my watch so somebody else doesn't have to do it. It means making sure that they know that their sacrifice is appreciated, it is acknowledged, and it is answered. And it's answered in a small way that we can't ever fully repay, but just a small thing like a gym membership or some equipment or a workout buddy goes a long, long way, in my opinion.
Yeah. Oh, it's so true. Oh, wow. I think that's a good place for us to stop here today, Todd. I want to, number one, thank you so much for, your service to our great country, both in the Navy, and post Navy. You continue to serve, every day. So thank you for that. And thank you for taking the time with us today. That's it for this week's episode of Coach's Corner. We will return next Wednesday at 1 Eastern time with another new episode. Thank you again, Todd, for sharing your story and your light with us today. It was just phenomenal. Thank you. Thank you to ID Technology for your continued support of Catch a Lift, the Catch a Lift website, Landing Zone, the Catch a Lift Coach's Corner podcast. A huge thank you to Lynn Coughlin, Henry Pomper, and Kaylee Nasiri for your hard work on this podcast and continuing to make it possible. And thank you to the entire CAL staff. If there are any veteran members who want to join Todd and I for some open conversation afterwards, just leave your name in the chat box and we'll get you a link sent over. And until next week, keep it real and stay CAL strong.